Welcome to Stacks and Stories, the podcast of the Mississippi Library Commission. On today's episode, join Shelley and Tracy as they talk about their favorite books related to food. From biographies to beach reads, we've got all sorts of books that you can sink your teeth into. And who knows, maybe you'll end the episode with something new on your plate. Stay tuned.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Stacks and Stories. I am Shelley, and I am here with Tracy.
Hello.
And again, we're going to be doing some chatting, bantering, discussion about...
Do you think we'll bicker?
Bicker in a nice way.
Yeah.
Nice bickering.
It's loving bickering or something.
Bickering about books.
Yes.
And we have a theme today. We always have a theme. Our theme today is books that center around food.
A lot of the books are really center around food, and one of mine just has one passage that I think about all the time.
Well, then that
So
definitely
it made the cut.
Yeah,
Even
it
though
should
the book
make
is
the
not
cut.
about food. There's just a portion about food.
But if there's a passage that definitely stands out,
Yeah.
then it should have.
and I'm going to be reading it to you.
Oh, well, then we have to
You
hear
have
about
that to look forward to.
All right. Do you want to start that? Or you want to save that for later?
Oh,
as
that's
a
going to be
teaser?
that's going to be the ending.
Okay.
The end
All
one.
right. Well, I'll go with my first one. If we have any loyal listeners, you might recognize this one from many moons ago. The book is called Sourdough by Robin Sloan. Do you remember this?
I do remember this, but
Okay.
I don't remember all the details, but there's something slightly magical about the sourdough, if I'm recalling correctly.
There is. And it's interesting that you say this because all of my picks today, there's something slightly magical about all of them.
Most of mine, except for the one, most of mine are also magical. Oh my gosh, what if we've chosen the same ones?
No, never happens. Okay, so Sourdough by Robin Sloan. First of all, I have to talk about the cover. The cover is a picture of a flying loaf of sourdough bread that looks like a flying saucer. If that doesn't grab you, I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So just go out and get it right now. No, the book is about a woman named Lois Clary, and she is a software engineer. She's super smart. And she works in San Francisco at a robotics company. She kind of has a ho-hum life. It's very organized, very techie. And she lives in this house, I remember. Now, I've read this book twice, which I never reread. Anyway, this house is like cut up into 4 apartments. Mm-hmm. And in another apartment are these 2 guys that they bake a lot, and they actually run a little restaurant out of their apartment, which probably isn't super legal.
I'm not sure that's to code.
No, it's not. But they make really good food. And through a lot of plot points, she learns about making sourdough, and she gets a sourdough starter from them. A magical sourdough starter.
Regular old sourdough, boo.
And when it's happy, it sings. So
That's right.
So the first night that she, you have a starter and it sits, and so it wakes her up with its like happy singing, and it's not like normal like fa la 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 la. It's like weird alien like singing noises.
It is singing bread.
Yeah, it is singing bread. So she starts making sourdough, and she starts bringing it to the company that she works at, and people start falling in love with this bread. And what's interesting to me is that the people at this company, they don't really care about food a lot, but they're very into their job. And so they drink a lot of shakes, and they're just not into like what they eat. They just don't really care.
Are they the kind of people who, if you could just eat a pellet?
Yes.
The
if
pellet
they could
people?
just not
Yeah.
have to take lunch and just shove a pellet in their mouth and just go on, they would do that.
To be honest, I love food and I love eating, but sometimes I'm like, you know what? I can't think of anything to eat. Where's my futuristic pellet that I can just chew up and then feel full and
Yeah.
satisfied.
I can see that sometimes for myself, but I do enjoy food.
Yeah, like if let's say you're on a road trip.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be handy?
It would be handy.
Have a
to
little
not have to
pellet?
stop. So she starts bringing the sourdough to work, and they're like, oh my God, sourdough with this butter and blah, blah, blah. So things happen. She starts to want to sell her bread at a farmer's market. And the competition where she's at is very high. So she has to audition to get a spot. So she does, and she doesn't get the spot. She has to audition several times. That's the whole thing. The take I'm trying to state here is that this book will make you just crave bread, just beautiful sourdough bread. And the themes in this book is like technology and food, which don't always go together, but it's a marvelous book. Marvelous.
It sounds...
And it has a weird ending, too. It has a weird twist ending that involves a robot, actually a robotic arm.
Okay.
So that's...
Well, listen, I'm sold. I'm going to seek out.
But I've talked about it before, and you were not sold.
Well, maybe it just took another go-round. But it sounds good, though.
Okay. Well,
It sounds good.
Okay. All right. What do you have?
I have, and it's also slightly... magical. The Particular Sadness of Lemon Cake.
I've read this book.
Okay.
I like it.
This girl named Rose can taste the emotions of the people who make the food she's eating. And so when her mother bakes her a birthday cake and she bites into it and it tastes bitter and she's filled with sadness, this is really where her awakening begins. So she stops eating like her family's food, and she eats a lot of like factory food, like crackers and stuff like that.
Cheez-Its.
Cheez-Its, yes. Shelley loves Cheez-Its.
So much.
Because you can, even though you can still kind of taste a little like desperation, it's not as overwhelming as the other. And there is a part where I think when she's 12, she decides, okay, fine, I'm going to try it again. I'm going to eat my family's food. And she eats some roast beef her mother has made. And she tastes guilt, romance, and lust because her mother is having an affair.
Ooh, who wants to think about your mother and lust?
Gross.
That is gross.
So anyway, she ends up, she actually should get together with your bread lady because she does end up working at a restaurant and blah, blah, blah. And she uses her power really to I don't know, help people eat good food or whatever. The thing about this book that's the good plot. There is a weird plot.
I don't remember a lot about this book, so this all sounds like a new book to me, even
Okay,
though
so
I know I read it.
This is kind of a spoiler. So if you are interested in this book, you might want to stop listening for a minute. There is this other plot point regarding Rose's brother. And I don't know how to really explain this, so I'm just going to say it. He ends up turning into a chair.
Okay.
He is like absorbed into the chair. And I think if I recall correctly, he will temporarily disappear and then he'll come back. And then one day he is like fully a chair and he's never coming back and he's 100% a chair.
Huh.
So I have a friend who has also read this book, and periodically I will see a picture of a weird chair on Instagram, and I will send it to her. And she knows exactly, like there'll be like some chair that has like human-looking feet, you know, at the bottom of the leg, and I'm like, do you think this is the one? Do you think this is the brother? So
I do not remember that.
So it's like a serious book.
Yeah.
A different writer would make it more of a jaunty romp.
Yeah.
And it is not a jaunty romp because the brother turns into a chair. Anyway, I enjoyed it a lot.
Is everyone sad that he's a chair, or is it
Well, I don't think his parents...
Well, of course that was going to happen.
No, I don't think his parents, if I recall correctly, and I haven't read this in a long time, I just was, struck by the fact that a guy turns into a chair. I don't think his parents know he's a chair.
Okay.
I think they has just disappeared, ran away or
disappeared.
whatever.
Okay.
But Rose knows that her brother is a chair, and I would hope that she would keep that chair at her house and not, give it to Goodwill or something.
Yeah, I would hope she would not give it away.
But you know what? Maybe, again, I don't remember what drives him to become a chair. Those are just so those words are so weird together, and I keep saying them and as if they're going to start making sense.
Yeah.
But no, he turns into a chair, and she can taste emotions. That's the what an endorsement, eh? But yeah, it's really good. It's a really interesting book, and I'm forgetting like 90% of it.
Yeah. Well, I have forgotten 100% of it. So, but I remember I liked it.
Yeah.
But I have no specifics.
The
I don't
chair.
even remember the chair. So
you know what? Sometimes things are so weird, your brain will just completely dismiss them. Like, I don't understand that.
Well,
Delete.
it's like there's no room in my brain to, you know, I can't deal with that.
Actually, a lot of details of books, all I can retain is liked it, hated it.
Pretty much for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
much.
that book. What part? I don't know. Who knows? Don't know.
Well, this next book I'm going to talk about, I read in college, 8 million.
We're the same age.
8 million
so
and
don't
9
say,
years ago.
Don't say it was too long ago.
I remember a lot about it, oddly. And you kind of set me up. It's magical realism also. Mm-hmm. Like Water for Chocolate by Laura Esquivel. Did you ever read it?
I did. I saw the movie.
Okay. So it was a movie. The movie came out in the early 90s.
Oh, you know what? I'm thinking of Chocolat.
I'm
thinking of that movie.
Chocolat is a whole different. That's a Johnny Depp movie.
Yeah.
Such a good movie.
Is it Juliette Binoche?
Juliette Binoche.
Oh, that's such a good movie, isn't it?
That.
I don't remember. I remember it being pretty.
Well,
it's about chocolate.
She owns a chocolate shop, and he's like some wayward person. And yes, it's a good movie.
Okay.
This is not that.
That's not the same book.
This is not
but,
that.
Okay.
Like Water for Chocolate. So it is set in the early 1900s in Mexico. I think I remember this book so much because it was the first time I read any book like this. There are recipes throughout the book, like in every chapter.
Yes, I love
that. And they're very long and detailed and have a lot of, crazy ingredients. And I don't cook, so they were all amazing to me. But it's a story about the De La Graza family. And the youngest daughter, Tita, there's a tradition that the youngest daughter, her destiny is to take care of the mother. So she cannot marry. Her destiny is to take care of the mother until the mother dies. Mm-hmm. So
that's great.
I know. Yeah, you have a great future there. But she falls in love with Pedro. Tita also is like the cook, and so you see where we're going. Mm-hmm. So Tita falls in love with Pedro, and he in turn falls in love with her, but they cannot be together. So through her.
So wait. So can you not just have a little romance, or you just can't get married?
Well, this is the 1900s.
Oh, okay,
and
got
it's a very traditional family.
Right. Okay,
so
I'm
it's
following.
probably very frowned upon to be having stuff on the side, whatnot. So through her cooking, that's where she puts all her emotions. And I remember there's this one scene where she's so sad and she cries all these tears. And when she presents the meal to the family, and it shows this in the movie very well, everyone just starts breaking down crying because they can feel her sadness. They don't know why they're crying, but they know that they just feel so sad. Now, I'm not saying that Tita doesn't have a little fun with Pedro.
Okay, good.
Because she does.
I remember this movie having a little, little spice
she
to it.
does, and then she does cook and make something. And
I bet that meal
everyone
is delicious.
that eats that gets very passionate and hot, like physically sweaty. That's a good scene also in the book and the movie. An interesting thing, I'm not giving away any spoilers. Pedro marries Tita's sister just to be closer to Tita. What torture.
Can
Can you imagine?
No.
This is a beautiful book. It's a very short book. I just loved it. I've only read it the once, and I've seen the movie once, and that was back in the 90s. And I've never gone back, but it's beautiful. And I just remember the tears and the passion and the recipes.
You know, the recipes reminded me, and this wasn't on my original list, but I'm deviating. One of my absolute favorites, which I can't believe I forgot, also a movie, is Heartburn by Nora Ephron.
Oh my God. One of my absolute favorites as well.
It is an awesome book, and it is an awesome movie.
Great
and
book,
I do not
great movie.
get tired of revisiting. And it has recipes.
It does.
So if you haven't read this or seen the movie, you know.
And the movie has such a great soundtrack too. Carly Simon.
It's Carly Simon all the time.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. Meryl Streep,
Yeah.
Jack Nicholson.
Yep.
I've seen the movie so many times.
So let me think. I read something about Jack Nicholson was not originally cast as Mark in the movie.
Who
It was
was?
Mandy Patinkin.
Really?
And here's
Could I see him being an evil Mark?
it's based upon Nora Ephron was married to Carl Bernstein of the Washington Post, and all of this is true. All of this stuff.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah.
Did not know that.
So they originally cast a Jewish person to be the Jewish man in the story. And I can't remember all the details, and I would have looked them up had I known.
Talking about it? Yes.
But Carl Bernstein actually had some of the rights to the story, and some of the rights he didn't have. Like he did have it for the book, but not for the movie, because she had to get his permission to, So when I think he objected to Jack Nicholson because he was like, well, clearly I'm going to be a villain, if it's Jack Nicholson.
And Jack is so good in that movie.
He is. But the thing I read about Mandy Patinkin, and he's a Broadway, kind of guy. You know that scene where she first finds out she's pregnant, and they're singing songs that have baby in the title.
They come home from the party and they're sitting in their house that's being renovated, and they're thinking of all the songs with baby in it.
Right. And there's a part where Jack Nicholson busts in and he sings a song from Carousel called Soliloquy, which is one of my favorite things because I am a musical theater nerd. The song is My Boy Bill. That part.
Oh, yeah, he does sing that. Yeah.
And, of course, Jack Nicholson can't really sing, right?
No, he cannot.
But Mandy Patinkin can. And that song is actually like 11 minutes long. And so while they were filming or rehearsing or whatever, Mandy Patinkin busts in. And he's like, my boy Bill, da, da. And he sings the entire 11-minute thing. And they were like, nope, too much, bye. That was why they got someone else.
Over the top. They just
they were just like, calm down, my friend. Take
it down a few notches.
Down like 12 notches. But it's the book also is interspersed with recipes because Rachel Samstack.
She's a food writer.
She's a food writer.
Yeah.
So you get those recipes, and if you've seen the movie, the end with the key lime pie is classic.
The best scene ever.
Love it.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
I am too. I'm glad you reminded me with Like Water for Chocolate. I'm going to quickly tell you about this book I read last week, and I read it in about 4 hours. I love a little book. I love a book I can put in my purse and not kill my arm. I love a little tiny book. And this one's called Love and Saffron, a novel of friendship, food, and love by Kim Faye. It just came out.
I never heard of it.
Okay, so this book is not going to revolutionize your life necessarily, but it is extremely sweet. And I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not generally someone who's like, oh, that's so sweet. And I'm not
you're not a sappy
I'm
person.
not just a sappy lady.
Yeah.
But it's an epistolary story, which I can't resist. Some people write letters back and forth.
I have to be in a certain mood.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And Email is not the same. I don't like a book that has email in it. I like real letters, and I like the people who put where they are. Like June 21st, 1951, Somerset, England, or whatever, wherever they happen to be. So this woman named Joan is a food writer at a newspaper, and she writes a fan letter to this woman named Imogene, who has this column in a magazine. Imogene and her husband live in a cabin in the woods, and it's a letter from the woods, and she talks about
letter from the woods.
Well, I don't know, going eating clams and stuff. I don't know. And she includes in it a little packet of saffron, which was it's actually really expensive. But anyway, she includes it and with a recipe for something or another. Imogene's never seen this. She's never actually seen garlic before. This is 1957 or 1960, something like that.
All right.
It was like a new exotic food.
Like a clove of garlic?
Right. Like you just didn't cook with garlic. It wasn't a thing. So Joan introduces Imogene to new ingredients, and Joan will tell her, oh, yeah, I have this friend named whatever, and we went to the market, and I got all these things, and here's my recipe for carne asada. Mm-hmm. And then Imogene will try it. And so then she makes new food friends, and Joan makes new food friends, and but the part that's actually, one of the parts that's really sweet is that Imogene's husband was in World War II and saw horrific things as one does. Yes. And has never, ever spoken of the experience.
Okay, yeah.
When he is cooking, they're making mussels or something with garlic, and the smell of the garlic reminds him.
A lot of times smells will take you back.
Yeah. But of positive things about his experience in France.
Yeah.
And so this allows them to become closer because he's literally never said a word, and now he's like, oh, yeah, my buddies and I went to this restaurant in Paris and had these mussels and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, time passes. They write back and forth. One of them becomes ill and dies, and then I cried. But anyway, it was very good.
Well, I wrote it down.
It's a sweet little book.
I'm gonna look into it because I'm in a reading slump of sorts.
Well,
right
you know
now.
what? A little tiny book sometimes will, and it goes by pretty fast because those letters they don't take up a lot of space on the page, and there's a lot of white space. So.
I like that, and I like to feel like I'm making progress.
Yes,
that gives me confidence.
Yes,
in my reading.
Yes, try this book.
Yeah, I will. Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about a book called Midnight at the Blackbird Cafe by Heather Weber. Have you heard of it?
I have not.
All right. It's I like to call it a charming book. It is a sweet book. It is about a young lady named Anna Kate, and she returns to her hometown of Wicklow, Alabama. Her grandmother owned a cafe called the Blackbird Cafe. And so she actually is returning because she's going to, she's coming back to go to her grandmother's funeral, and then she's going to sell the cafe. But that's not what happens.
Listen, when the Blackbird Cafe is in the title, we're not selling the cafe.
I mean, if you've seen a Hallmark movie, right. This is not what's going to go down. And it's a small town of quirky, fun characters. Some are kind of mean, but not in a horrible way, but, snarky way.
Yeah. Okay. What is that? It's not a Hallmark movie, but that show Mystic River. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's only 12 people who live here, and one of them has to be crotchety.
Yeah, there always has to be a crotch. Yeah. It's like that. In fact, it reminds me of. It's actually not a Hallmark show, but it was a show. It was on, I saw it on Netflix, but it was called Heart of Dixie.
Oh,
Did you ever watch that?
I didn't, but I know what you're talking about.
It was set in Alabama, and this girl came from, New York City. And, quirky characters, crotchety doctor. Anyway, she starts, working in the cafe while she's trying to get it together to put it up for sale. There's magic realism here, of course, because the cafe is known for their famous Blackbird pie. Now, it's not made of birds. I don't know what. It's made of, some type of special berries. But everyone's always coming in for this special blackbird pie. Why, you ask? Because when you eat the blackbird pie, that night you get messages from your long-lost, dead loved ones.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Get me some of that
So
pie.
everyone is always like, you got the blackbird pie today? And
Yeah.
she's like, what is up with this blackbird pie, you
Yeah.
know? And, things happen. It turns out there's in her family this knowingness,
Yes.
this extra sense runs in her family, and she's never understood this in herself, and she wonders why the blackbirds are hanging around all the time and following her around. It's just such a sweet book. There's just a lot of talk about what they make in the cafe, what kind of food they make, and along the way, she's helping people in this little community, even though she's not trying to, but she can't help but to be, just to fall in love with these people. Mm-hmm. And it has a real sweet ending. I just love this book.
You know what?
Like
listen.
if you're looking for a book that's just going to make you happy, you don't want to have anxiety, this is a great book for you.
I am going to read it because
It is on Hoopla if you want to listen to it.
Oh, thanks.
Uh-huh.
I will. That description reminds me. Have you read Sarah Addison Allen? Do you know this author?
She's on my list of people to talk about.
Oh.
If you like magical realism, I have her written down.
Well, she loves a good magic food situation.
She does. I've read The Sugar Queen and a couple of others. Not a lot, but I've read a couple by her.
So on my list today is Garden Spells.
Oh, I have not read that one.
In this one, there are two sisters, one who has skipped town a long time ago, and one has a catering business, and she uses edible flowers, and all of the flowers in her garden will do special things like, oh, my children are sassing me. Okay, here's some cookies. That'll help with that. If, some creepy man's coming on to you, here, give him this souffle, and he will go away forever.
Here, creepy man. Here's the souffle.
Yes. Oh, a new neighbor came around. Hey, I brought you this. I really didn't have anything else to say about it, except it's the magic food passed down for generations. There's a magic tree in the backyard that you're not supposed to eat the apples, and I don't remember why. So I'll have to reread it.
Well, I have one more book to talk about.
Okay.
If we have time.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And I believe I have talked about this before. Maybe. One Italian Summer by Rebecca Surratt. It starts out kind of sad, but it's so good. It starts out, there's a woman, her name's Katie, and her mom passes away.
Is this a new book?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I just ordered it.
Okay, probably. It just came out. Her mom, Carol, passes away. Carol is her best friend. And Carol and Katie, they had planned a trip to Italy because Carol has spent a lot of time there when she was younger. And so I'll try not to say too much because it is a new book. And I
want to read it because I read her other book in 5 years.
Yes.
Unexpectedly devastated me. Another boohoo.
It is, and this one is
with a twist at the end.
This one is similar. It's a heart jerker. Is that the word? No.
Heart wrenching.
Tear jerker. With a twist of sorts. But so Katie and Carol have already planned this trip. Okay, they already bought their tickets, all this jazz. So Katie decides she's going to go ahead and go, which is hard. So she gets there. And the first day, everything's fine. She orders this amazing meal. All the meals that she has while she's there is talked about in the most amazing detail. It's not even just the pasta. It's the tomatoes. It's the bread. It's the wine. It's just so good. It's the next day, Katie sees her mother. But not her mother at the age that Katie knows her. It's her mother when she was younger, when her
Really?
mother lived there.
Interesting.
And Katie gets to know her mother as a young lady, as a young person.
Well,
And that's where I'm going to stop.
okay, good. Because I'm going to check this out
It
today.
is-
If our Katie has cataloged it.
There's actually a lot more to it, and there's twisty stuff from there. It is very good. Now, I listened to the audio version several months ago. I had this advanced audio version, and it was read by Lauren Graham from Gilmore Girls,
I
and
bet
she
that's
did a
good.
really good job.
I bet that's
she
really
was a
good.
very good fit for Katie. The food description is just perfect. And the way they describe, it's very atmospheric, but I think you will love this book. It's got some sad elements to it.
Well, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very excited.
Good.
I like a little bit of like
But it ultimately,
travel, but not
it's-
really time travel,
It's time
you
travel, yeah, in quirky way.
I don't like scientific
No,
time
it's
time
not.
travel.
No,
I
there's
like
no-
emotional time travel.
Yeah. There's nothing scientific about this.
Okay.
Anyway, I very much enjoyed it. So.
Well, I'm going to get the descriptions of food reminded me of my last pick, but I have an alternate pick because I cheat.
Well,
so,
of course.
But if reading about food in general is your jam, MFK Fisher is a classic food writer. The book that we have is The Gastronomical Me, and one of her other classics is called How to Cook a Wolf. And in the introduction to The Gastronomical Me, she's saying, people ask, well, why don't you write about something real? Why don't you write about like war and famine if you have this skill? And she said, well, I'm hungry. She said that the three basic needs of food, security, and love are so intertwined. She can't just write about one of them. And then as you tell the story of food, you end up telling the story about the people who are eating it, and it becomes a whole thing. Anyway, but it's very good, and I recommend it. But I saved this for last.
Is this the teaser from the beginning?
Yes, this is the passage. So several years ago, I was at the Oxford Conference for the Book in Oxford, Mississippi, and Bobby Ann Mason, who's a fiction writer, was on a panel, and I don't even remember what the panel was about. It could have been about food. It could have not been. But Bobby Ann Mason wrote a biography of Elvis, and it's called Elvis Presley, A Life. And it's very good, and it's not a traditional biography. It's a little loosey-goosey.
Is this about Elvis's love of food?
Well, this portion is.
This
and
part
it actually
you're gonna
like
read.
sort of describes why. So because Elvis grew up in poverty, his father had gone to jail, and so there's like this poverty and shame element in his life. So he had this immense desire, for attention, for love, and for food. And so I'm just going to read you this part.
Okay.
Elvis loved hamburgers. When he was a child, he would walk 3 miles to get a cheap burger at Duty's Diner, a burger bought at the hamburger joint, the bun soaked with grease, the thin dill coins, and an onion slice, all flattened together by the fry cook spatula and then packaged in thin waxed paper, was heavenly. You unwrapped it and wolfed it steaming hot, the tart pickle and sharp onion and tangy mustard mingling and caressing the palate with contradictory flavors. Add a peach knee-high or a chocolate milkshake, more incongruous sensations, and you had bliss. With a burger, a Coca-Cola was a more typical drink. Coca-Cola, the elixir of the South, that sacred formula with a classic taste. The way it burned the throat sharply when you were really thirsty was the height of pleasure. Okay.
That's it. Yeah, that's
That hamburger,
Yeah.
I think about that hamburger all the time.
that's a good hamburger.
So as Bobby Ann Mason was talking about this, she didn't read that passage, but she referred to it. And the way I read it, think about it like 10 times more dramatic. She's like, the crisp pickle, the tangy mustard. We were like, everyone in the room was starving to death by the end.
Yeah.
So that kind of tells you what kind of biography this is. It's not a hard fact, it's an interpretation. He loved food, and here's a reason I'm saying why.
Yeah.
And But listen, I would walk 3 miles. Actually, I wouldn't, but maybe I would walk 3 miles for a really good hamburger. She also goes on to talk about how purchased food is in a different land, especially for Elvis, because most of the food he ate was, his mother got it from the garden or something. And so a hamburger represents, it's almost like a status symbol because you bought it. You have enough money to buy a hamburger, then you are not in abject poverty. Anyway.
I am going to look into this book. I wrote it down.
You can have this copy today.
Really?
I mean, you can
read
borrow it. Yeah.
Well, we've mentioned several great titles. I think so. And hopefully our listeners will find something or have heard something that they can,
that they can sink their teeth into.
That they can sink their teeth into. So hopefully you've heard something that you like, and maybe you'll go find it at your local public library.
Sounds like a plan.
Or indie bookstore.
Now I'm going to go eat some lunch.
A hamburger.
You know it.
Crisp pickle.
Oh my gosh. I don't even eat pickles, but I might based on that.
I like a pickle on a hamburger.
Yeah. So people do.
So until next time, guys, we will hear you later. Something like that.
Thank you for listening to Stacks and Stories, the podcast of the Mississippi Library Commission. We hope you will tune in next time, and we encourage you to visit your local public library often.